What is up, disc golfers? Today on Iceberg TV, we will be talking about the Paul McBeth Disc Golf Pro Tour conspiracy. There's a few different theories as to, Paul McBeth is going to Europe because he knew the Disc Golf Pro Tour was headed there, so he's just going to get ahead of it and get it, play for the points that they're going to be putting up for those events. I don't think that's the right theory. There's another theory that the Disc Golf Pro Tour is following Paul McBeth because of his announcement that he's going to Europe. I don't think that's necessarily the right answer either, but I think it's closer than the first answer. Personally, what I think is happening is the Disc Golf Pro Tour wanted to go do more work in Europe, and they were probably on the fence because they weren't sure if the value was there. And then now, after the Paul McBeth announcement, that would have possibly been that, the straw that broke the camel's back that actually was like, now we know the value's there. We know Paul's going to be there, so the eyeballs are going to be over there. These European events with Paul playing in them, as long as he's on feature cards and lead cards, is going to perform just as well as Paul McBeth here in the States. And we're going to be getting to see Paul McBeth play on Crockle Disc Golf Course, the Åland Disc Golf Islands, which is... there's 16 courses on these various different islands. It's disc golf paradise. This is a dream destination, dream vacation for me at some point in my life. So I really want to head there as well. So, I know Paul McBeth wants to head there and check it out. It's going to be a once-in-a-lifetime experience. So Paul McBeth's going to go check out Åland. He's going to play Crockle course, play in a tournament there. And honestly, my theory is that Paul McBeth is simply going to Europe just to have fun and to get better. And playing the same courses year in and year out will get a little bit monotonous, and there is no growth in that. There is growth for Paul McBeth going to Europe, challenging himself against new competition at new courses. I think that's Paul McBeth's motivation. So when Paul made his announcement, I think the Disc Golf Pro Tour is like, if Paul's going to be there, we can definitely make it work. So I think that decision helped them. I'm sure they've been planning it. I'm sure they've been talking about it. But once you know Paul's going to be there, it makes it a lot easier to pull the trigger, which helps just push the button that, we're going to go do this thing. So let's hear what Jeff Spring had to say about it.
There's obviously, sort of related to the discussion around the timing of the announcement here, there's been some discussion about whether Paul McBeth is sort of getting an unfair advantage. Of course, he announced that he's going to be playing in a number of these Euro Tour events on his schedule that he released about a month ago. Did Paul know about this effort from the Pro Tour? And in particular, did he know that there were going to be silver points available at these events, which obviously sweetens the deal, especially for a player of his caliber, to go over and pick up, a lot of points you look at last year, he almost won the outright points leader, but missed out perhaps because he didn't play a third silver event.
Yeah, so Paul did not know when he planned his schedule. I know that for a fact. I have spoken with Paul around the holidays and found out about what this is, which is a coincidence. I think that Paul was planning on a bigger European tour last year from what he told me. But no, I was very surprised to hear. We were talking about something else, and he basically said, "Hey, I'm not going to be playing a lot of Pro Tour events this year. I want you to know." And I said, that doesn't sound great. Why don't you play more? And he said, I might not even play, he's not even playing enough, I think, Elite Series to qualify for all 8 events. I'm not quite sure. But he's not playing many. And I think that that's been, reported. And he said, well, I'm actually going to be playing some events in Europe. And I said, well, we're actually working with the Euro Tour. So we're going to put some events on Disc Golf Network and have some associated points. So, perhaps there'll be some. I think there are some. I think he's also playing a European Pro Tour event. His schedule was independent and set before he was aware of our plans, and our plans were almost final before we were aware of Paul's plans. So, I think that the driving commonality here is that
So, like he said, the plans were almost final. That didn't mean that they were finalized. It means that they were still waiting to push the go button on this project. And now that Paul's going, they're going to push the go button, and they're going to be there, and they're going to film Paul. They're going to film the European players, and it's going to be super great content. I cannot wait to see some new events on the Disc Golf Pro Tour Network. I am so pumped to see Paul playing in Europe. I love European disc golf. It's so good. The courses are so gorgeous. The scenery, the lakes, the mountains, the trees, everything just hits different over there. It is so cool and is so much different than what we see on the Disc Golf Pro Tour in the States. I cannot wait for those of you unaware of the Crockle disc golf course. I cannot wait for you guys to see that course. It's absolutely insane. And they want Paul McBeth to qualify for the Disc Golf Pro Tour Championships because it's a good narrative of Paul versus Ricky versus Eagle versus Dickerson, all the top players competing for that Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship. And I don't think that's necessarily something that Paul McBeth cares about. So when they bring the points over to those events, I felt like they're bringing those points over for Paul so he can continue to qualify and continue to be, part of these, Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship events. Because I honestly don't think Paul McBeth would care about that. And this is my theory that I think Paul McBeth does care about. I think Paul McBeth cares about going to Europe, having fun, breaking away from the monotony of doing the same tour year in and year out. And I think this is paramount over everything. Paul McBeth wants to get better at disc golf, and the best way for Paul McBeth to challenge himself is to go to a new place, play new events against new elite competition at new courses. And I think Paul McBeth is doing the right thing by going to challenge himself. If the Australian tour was extremely competitive and had world-class courses, we would have seen Paul McBeth down there too, but they don't have quite enough action going on down there. But in Europe, they do. And in Europe, they have some serious players and they have serious courses. Paul McBeth wants to go down there, get better, win on a different stage, and continue to grow as a person. And I think that's what Paul McBeth is all about. And I think that's the thing that people are just glazing over. Paul wants to be the greatest of all time. And to do that, he has to continue to get better. And the best way for him to get better is to go to Europe and to challenge the best players over there on some new courses. That is my take on it. Now, I'm interested to see what you guys think in the comment section down below. But let's let Jeff Spring finish up here, and we will then we'll wrap things up.
The Pro Tour is focused on growing professional disc golf across the world, and it seems like Paul has a desire to also encourage growth. And from what I understand, his tour in Europe is certainly not focused on getting points. He's missing out on a lot of bigger point opportunities. He's already won a silver event. The most he can do in Europe, I think, probably is 2 more silver events because it's capped. It's capped at 3. So the most he can do is 100 more. If he stayed in the States, he would certainly have many more opportunities. I don't think that we really thought about this coincidence being worth changing our plans or him changing his. But we're happy that he'll be over there for some of them, and some of them he won't. And we're just as excited for the ones where he's coming back to the States and we keep going in Europe. So I'm excited for that, and we're talking about what can we do collaboratively now to grow European disc golf, put more opportunities in front of the players, in front of the fans over there, and try to document what the experience is going to be like.
All right, guys, I would love to hear your comments in the comment section down below. Now that Disc Golf Pro Tour and Paul McBeth are heading to Europe, it sounds like there's going to be some cool collaboration, and how convenient that they are both going to be in Europe at the same time. I don't necessarily believe that it's a coincidence, and I also don't quite think it's a conspiracy. So I think the term conspiritance has been being thrown around, and I think that's the perfect way to describe exactly what it is. I'm sure Paul McBeth heard through the grapevine what was happening with the Pro Tour, and whether Jeff Spring was aware or not of what Paul McBeth knew. People talk, rumors get out, just like the Simon Lizotte leaky leakers. The European Pro Tour, Disc Golf Pro Tour collaboration has its leaky leakers as well. And Paul McBeth is an intelligent guy. I'm sure he had more than enough information to make his decision. But ultimately, I think Paul McBeth is going to just be happy, have fun, and to get better at disc golf. Ultimately, that's what Paul wants to do. Greatest of all time. He wants to continue to get better, and that's the best place to do it. Comment down below. You're watching Iceberg TV, and take care.